Hey there, jet engine fans. Welcome back to a tiny, small, makeshift jet engine, gas turbine engine shop. I know it's been a while. It's been a somewhat rainy summer so far, so I've tried to go with a buddy of mine to hit our local rivers when they're just below flood stage for some kayaking. We like to just get some exercise as mid to late 50-year-olds, so you know, we're not whitewater guys. We like a little whitewater, but we're not, you know, we're not from the mountains, so we're certainly not going to consider ourselves whitewater kayakers. However, we own whitewater kayaks, and we like to go on to a couple rivers locally that are very fun to run. When the water's up, they can really get rocking and rolling, and of course, pretty quickly they can reach a stage where we won't go. But we've had several good chances to go. Many times when we hit summer here in Indiana, and the rain slows down and the creeks and rivers more or less drop to low levels, and we're not going to do that. So we've taken advantage of some of that opportunity, and I've slacked off here on the J44 project. However, we'll continue here. This video will be covering the rotor assembly, which in this engine is very simple. It's basically the compressor, a drive shaft, and the turbine wheel, rotor itself. That's why we'll just cover that briefly. We're not going to really assemble anything at this point because that part is already assembled. The turbine rotor itself will be assembled to the shaft after the stator outside case and combustion chamber, all that will have to be installed, and then the also the turbine nozzle, everything has to go in before, and the turbine wheel is like the last thing to install before you put the end on the engine. So honestly, all I can do tonight is show you, kind of review this assembly and give you the basics on it, and we'll stop there and we'll go to probably the next video I shoot will be reassembling the cowling, the casing, which is the combustion chamber. We got to get that together as an assembly, and then we'll be ready to start assembling the engine. And as I said before, we'll have to check clearances, but you have to pretty much begin assembling the engine before you can do that. So we're just about to that point. We're getting excited. Alright, well, we'll get the camera off the tripod and I'll try to show you some details here. Alright, stand by for a few seconds here. We'll edit ourselves into a close-up. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I just thought of something. Technically, this part had to get onto this makeshift workbench. Okay. So what we got to do is show you how that happened, because that piece there, although it is not extremely heavy, it's awkward, it's fragile, and I had to have a little help. At least I would have felt better having help. So my friend came by and gave me a little assistance to be sure that this thing would sit here and not be dropped and damaged. Alright, we'll show you how that got done. This is awesome. You'll be amazed. It's high tech. Watch. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I got this. Look at that. You alright?
Yeah.
Look here, this to protect this. Look, it's a little condom. Isn't that nice? I'll protect that from you.
You're not going to throw it away, are you?
No, I'll save it. See? Good to have friends, isn't it? Little things help. I know one thing in these jet engine parts, they're fragile and they're expensive, and we don't want any accidents. So I try to be a little extra careful with anything that if I drop it, it's thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of dollars as far as I'm concerned. Okay? So you use hoist, lifts, assistance. Just be safe. Don't hurt somebody, hurt yourself, don't hurt your engine. Okay? Tip from Uncle Darren. Okay. We'll get the camera now and we will take a look-see here at some close-up shots of this assembly. Alright, here we go. Okay, we'll take a quick look here at this rotor assembly, and we'll use the handheld camera here to point some things out. And I'll of course have my pointing stick. That'll help me too. Here we go. Okay, this is the front of the rotor assembly. This is the compressor. It also has an impeller. This is actually two pieces. You can see there's a difference in the metal color here. This front assembly here is an impeller, which basically draws air in, gathers air in. However you want to non-scientifically say that. Then this part here is actually called the compressor. And together this is the compressor rotor assembly because it is two separate pieces of metal, actually three. This steel shaft, stub shaft, goes through from the inside of this shaft on the back side of, if you remove this flange, the shaft from the back of the compressor, there's a big nut there inside. In fact, we can look down this hollow shaft, and shortly we will. You can see that there's a nut there that holds this all together. This is balanced as an assembly from the factory, so this is usually not disassembled unless there's a problem. This compressor assembly would then have to be removed from this shaft, and then again it would have to be all rebalanced. And we have the turbine rotor assembly or turbine wheel. This is one piece because these blades are welded to this disc. So as Jay and some of you have mentioned in previous videos, or mentioned previously, this is sometimes referred to as a Blisk, B-L-I-S-K. I think this is a deja vu here all over again. I think I said that. Alright, and then this flange, this race boss, fits precisely into this flange. And there's a locator dowel pin here, which would engage the flange right here. There's a little hole specially for it, so this can only go on one way. It's indexed, as they would say. Okay, get a light here. If we look in here, you can see up in there is a self-locking nut. That is a shaft that goes all the way through. Actually, it comes through from the front. It includes the stub shaft, the hub, goes through that compressor wheel assembly and attaches on the back here. Okay, you can see there's some holes drilled through there. That allows air passage. There it is. That hopefully never needs to be disassembled. That would take a really long extension and a lot of torque, I'm assuming. This Blisk or turbine wheel rotor assembly has been glass beaded. It was this is a replacement part that I got from a used engine that I was fortunate enough to obtain, and it looked like it was in really good condition, because as you remember, the whole start of this whole project was my original turbine nozzle failing and disintegrating right before my very eyes, probably due to lots of overheating and probably more hours than it was ever designed to run. So upon replacing it, it sounds like it'd probably be good if you could to replace this turbine wheel, so both the nozzle I will be using and this wheel are from the same parts engine. You can tell it's fine quality steel. It rings just like fine crystal. The mechanism for fastening the turbine disc or wheel rotor assembly to the back of this shaft or flange, we'll use this little system. There will be 10 of these fasteners. So it's a bolt retainer or keeper, and then a self-locking nut. Now, as we were talking here before the air conditioning came on, these three components, there's times 10, hold this wheel onto this flange at the end of this shaft. Okay, these bolts or screws come in different weights. The heads are different thicknesses here. As you can see, it's a special shape. It has a flat side, obviously. Well, this fastener would be installed. It slides in like that. If you'll notice, the flat side goes towards the shaft, and that won't let it turn. So you don't have to have a wrench to hold this from turning. However, when you stand the engine up on its end, or in the position that you would have this to assemble it, the front will be facing down towards the floor. So that means this bolt will be falling out. Unless, once bolt is installed, we place this keeper. This keeper will snap over these threads, and just barely, but fit over the threads, and it will not allow the bolt to fall. So you would insert your 10 bolts in the proper locations, because as you notice, they are numbered. That's my writing to reference it to where Agent JayZ said it had to go. Now you got to remember, Agent JayZ balanced this rotor assembly for me, and we got to have these bolts where they belong, or I'm in deep trouble. It will cost another $1 million to get it rebalanced if I screw that up. Alright, so you can see here, these two bolts are side by side. You can even here at the top. You can see this head's thicker, or I guess to be more precise, let's even them up here at the shoulder, where it's going to actually be against the back side of the flange. This head's thicker, obviously, so guess what? This bolt, this head weighs more than that one. So that is another way to adjust the balance of this engine. It's amazing that this changing a gram here and there on a bolt, which is this close to center of rotation. I mean, it's not way out here. Where's my finger? It's not way out here on some big rotating wheel. This is, I don't know, let's just say this is 6 inch, you know, it's 5 inch diameter, you know, maybe 6 on the bolts. So you got a bolt out, you know, rotating out here, 3 inch radius from the center. And you're telling me that by changing this bolt's weight a few grams, or a gram, will change its balance. Well, yeah, I guess I believe that. It's obvious, and there's a reason they do it. These bolts are available in about 10 sizes, or 10 weights. Thank you, Jay, for helping me out. That was me sending you some bolts to play with, and, you know, your time and picking bolts out. Well, anyway, so that's all part of the balancing process. Besides grinding and removing weights, you can also fine-tune. I guess it's a fine-tune. That's a Agent JayZ question. Is this a fine-tuning process of the rotating balance, or is this just an equally important step that is just as effective or affects just as much as grinding? Good question there. Alright, here's my collection of bolts and nuts. These all have a place, they're all numbered. Alright, so that is how you attach this to the aft of the shaft. Huh, I'm a poet. Okay, look, we got some evidence of grinding here in these locations, and that is relieving weight on this side, I guess, to make it spin smoothly. This grinding had been done by a factory probably, or somebody in a shop somewhere in the past. Since this engine it appears to be had really low hours on it, I'm assuming this is probably a factory balance. And however, yeah, that is pretty ugly grinding, even if it is the factory, especially if it would be a factory. It is pretty gross. But this engine was built as an economy engine, designed to be powering possibly disposable, semi-disposable aircraft, such as cruise missiles and, you know, research target drones. So This engine was not designed to be really pretty or really high tech. It is designed to be economical. So they save money. You used to grind, by a hand grinder, it would appear. It doesn't give a really good look, but as long as you don't grind away this boss here where the actual self-locking nut will ride, you're good. It would be awesome to talk to an original engineer that worked on this project if the people were still alive, because this engineering was accomplished starting in about 1950, and the project ran throughout the 1950s. So that's been a while ago. Since this wheel was not the original wheel with this shaft assembly, then it had to be balanced as an assembly, and now we're back to where we started. Okay. It is very important on gas turbine engines to balance them. Anything actually any shaft that spins, technically, no matter how slow or how fast, should be balanced. But when you involve larger and larger masses, or if you involve higher speeds, the balancing becomes much more critical. So anybody out here building any of these type of engines, even if it's something you obtained on eBay and in pieces, or if it needs to be repaired, taken apart, reassembled, you have to keep things indexed and aligned, or else a balance is required. Well, as usual, me going on about stuff too much has stretched this video longer than it should have been. I was hoping to do this in one episode, but we'll try to, I guess, split it into 2 videos covering the rotor assembly. So let's wrap this part 1 up, and then we'll take back off with part 2 and show you some other stuff there and bore you some more. All right. So, okay. From the world's smallest jet shop, thanks for watching.